Hi guys, this is Vineet and in today's video we will talk about rebuilding the system databases inside SQL Server. So guys, if you are new to this channel, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. There is a subscribe button below this video. Click on the subscribe button. It will give you a bell icon. Click on that bell icon, select all notifications to get notifications regarding all my future videos. Or if you are a user of my channel or viewer of my channel who is watching videos from a long time, what I would recommend is please go ahead and do subscribe using the same method. All right, so today we are going to talk about the rebuilding of system databases inside SQL Server. There are some points to remember while watching this video. Please watch this video till the end to gain better clarity of the concept. And if it's possible for you, please watch this video twice or as many times as you want until the concept gets clear to you. Perform any exercises in your test and lab environments. Do not touch any production environments or production databases. And we would like to know your thoughts regarding our videos, so please do share your comments, any suggestions, any requirements, maybe any stories you have with SQL Server in day-to-day life. Maybe you can share something about the situation where my content has helped you somewhere or has cleared your concept. We would love to read your stories, so please do share your stories with us, guys. We eagerly wait for them. And we feel good when you write something to us, really. And let's go ahead. So I have created some playlists for you to watch. Some of them are database design, tables, business continuity, indexing, performance tuning, and the integration services. These are some of our main playlists, and this video is pertaining to the database design playlist, which is the first one. And if you talk about the total number of videos posted on my channel, it's around 200 videos so far, and the video count is still growing day by day at a constant pace. And we basically release videos from Monday till Friday at 6 p.m. IST time. And my channel page link is given over here. Link to all this playlist and the channel page link is also given in the video description area. So please check out the video description area if you want to go to any particular playlist. So the best way to learn about any particular topic, I would say, is to learn through a playlist. So for example, if you want to learn about a database design topic, which is a vast topic, so what I would recommend is go directly to a database design playlist and watch all the videos from beginning till end to gain better clarity about the database design concepts and to gain mastery in this area. All right, we are keep on adding videos to this playlist, so that's why I'm saying that please subscribe to this channel so that you can get timely notifications. So let me give you 5 minutes so that you can go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I'm waiting. Please go ahead and do so right away. Okay, I hope all of you who are watching my videos have subscribed to the channel. There's a subscribe button below this video. Now today's topic is rebuilding the system databases in SQL Server. So let's go to notes first. So I do not have any pre-written notes, guys. So what I will be doing, I will be writing the notes as I am describing the topic to you. I will write then and there. You may also do the same. In case you don't want to write any notes and wants a ready-made PDF copy of the notes, you can do so by sending an email to me on my email address. Let me flash that to you. So this is my email address where you can send an email by mentioning the topic for which you want the PDF notes. The notes will be on paid basis. I am charging around like 25 INR per page. So if it's a 4-page notes, it's around 100 rupees for a 4-page copy. So send a request only when it is required. If you are able to write the notes, I would suggest you to write them. So writing basically gives more clarity about the topic. So I would recommend writing the notes. But yeah, if you still need the PDF copy, yeah, you can send me the request, and it will be paid notes. And once I get your request, I will send you the payment link. So upon making payment, you will be able to download the PDF notes. Now let's start with the topic, which is rebuilding the system databases. So system databases must be rebuilt to fix corruption problems. All right. So the first point here is, why do we rebuild system databases? So system databases must be rebuilt to fix uh, corruption problems. Corruption problems where in the master, these are system databases. So master, model, MSDB, or resource system databases. So if one of our database gets corrupt or corrupted, so if there is a corruption within one of our system databases, which are master, model, MSDB, and resource, we do not consider TempDB here. So we are just considering these four databases: master, model, MSDB, and resource system databases. And resource database is a file-based database. It's not available in the UI. If you have watched my previous video, if you haven't watched it, please go ahead and do so. All right, and let me increase the size a little bit. All right, so must be visible to you. So basically, we rebuild databases to fix the corruption problems in the system databases. A second reason, if we talk about the second reason, so another reason to rebuild the system databases is when we need to change the server collation, or maybe the default server collation if you want to change for system, or maybe I can say default server level collation. If we want to change that, we definitely rebuild the system databases. So let me open up SQL Server and see where the server level collation is. What is the collation at the server level? I'm just going ahead and checking that. So let's connect to the default instance of SQL Server. And in order to check the server collation, we can check the properties of the server like this. And do you see some collation setting over here? Check, go ahead and check. So this is a server collation, and I cannot change this, right? I cannot change it, right? Even though I'm logged in as the system administrator. So if you want to change the server collation or the default server collation, the only way is to rebuild the system databases. And we will see later how this can be done. Now, there are some limitations and restrictions. So when these databases, the master, model, and MSDB or resource or the TempDB, I would say. So I'm talking about four databases, excluding the resource database. So when master, model, MSDB, or TempDB databases are rebuilt, the databases are dropped and recreated in the original location. So if we talk about how databases, how system databases are rebuilt. So what happens in the background is, whenever we are done with the process or whenever we start executing the process, so what happens is the databases, or let me make this a heading quickly. 1 second, guys. Let me mark it with some color. Okay, so how system databases are rebuilt. So the databases are dropped first and then recreated in their original location. So first there is a drop of a database, then those database are recreated at the original location. Now, if a new collision is specified in the rebuild statement, so we can basically specify a new collation uh, in the rebuild statement. All right. This is how we change the collation of our system server level collation. So if a new collation is specified in the rebuild statement and the system databases are created using that collation setting. All right. So we can specify a new collation in the rebuild statement, after which databases, or we can say after which the system databases are created using the same collation, using that collation setting. All right. So we got this point, right? And any user modification to this databases are lost. So whenever the system databases are rebuilt, we lose out on any of the modifications. So we can easily say that when system databases are rebuilt, right? So they are created from scratch, right? So any user modifications that were done earlier or any user modifications to these databases are lost. Now let's take an example. You may have user-defined objects in the master database. So for example, I can take here is um, you may have user-defined objects in the master database, right? And maybe you have some scheduled jobs in stored in MSDB database. So some user-defined objects are stored in the master database. You have created them, and you have created some scheduled jobs that are stored in the MSDB database. All right, and or maybe you have changes to the default database settings, right? Settings in the model database. So any changes to the default settings are stored in the model database, right? So when system databases are built, all these changes are lost. We will lose on the any user-defined objects. We will lose on any scheduled jobs that are stored in MSDB, and we will lose out on any settings that are configured. And those, if those settings are stored in model database, we will lose out on those settings whenever we rebuild the system databases. So I hope you got all these points, guys. If not, please go through them once again. All right. All right. Let's move ahead. So there are some prerequisites involved before you rebuild the system databases to ensure that you can restore the system databases to their current settings. So, so there are some prerequisites involved, right? So let me write prerequisites. All right. And so this will be a heading, and let me make that a heading quickly. All right. So we are talking about prerequisites here for maybe for rebuilding the system databases. We need to do certain tasks before we can rebuild the system databases. So we will perform the following task before we rebuild the system databases, basically to ensure that you can restore the system databases to their current settings. So we will perform the following tasks to ensure, right? So following task before we rebuild the system databases, right? To ensure, what do we need to ensure? That you can restore the system databases to their current settings. So following steps need to be followed. So first step would be, let me note that down properly. So first step will be, we will record all the server-wide configuration values. Alright, we'll come to that later. For now, I'm just mentioning the point. So we will record all server-wide configuration values. Second thing is we will record all hotfixes applied to the instance of SQL Server and the current collation. Alright, so we will check on what all hotfixes are applied to the SQL Server, and alongside we will check what is the current collation for the server, right? And so basically, why do we record all the hotfixes? We must basically reapply these hotfixes after rebuilding the system databases. So the reason we take a note of all the hotfixes installed on the machine is why? Because after you rebuild the system databases, all these hotfixes need to be applied. Sorry. All right. So third point, which is a prerequisite, is let me note that down. So we basically record the current location of all data and log files. So we need to make note of that. We record all the current location of all the data and log files for the system databases. All right. And basically rebuilding the system databases installs all system databases to their original location. So this is another important point. So rebuilding the system databases installs all system databases to their original location. All right. So you need to see the location. If you have any custom location configured for your system databases, you need to make note of those locations. Now, that's what I'm saying. If you have moved system databases or maybe log files to a different location or to a custom location, you must move the files again. So that's why we need to take a note of the locations where your current system databases, data and log files are present. You need to keep track of those locations. All right. We will definitely take you through all these steps, how to do this. For now, I'm just mentioning the points. Later on, I will go inside each and every point to let you know, to show you how you can do this. Now, the fourth point is you can locate. Next prerequisite is to locate the current backup of master, model, and MSDB databases. Alright, so in this video, we will be rebuilding all the system databases. So in order to rebuild them, we should have a backup of master, model, and MSDB databases. And this should be a periodic practice to take database backup of all these system databases. We had discussed this in some of our early videos, so please go ahead and watch that out. What should be the frequency of backup for each of the database type or database for each of the system database? What should be the database backup frequency? Please go ahead and watch my previous video if you have not done so. Alright, so we should locate the current backup of master, model, and MSDB databases. And the fifth prerequisite is if the instance of SQL Server is configured as a replication distributor, so if it's acting as a replication node or a replication distributor, locate the current backup of the distribution database in that case as well. So if the instance of SQL Server is configured as a replication distributor, locate the backup of the distribution database as well. So in case replication is configured in on one of our systems, those systems will have a distribution database. So in those case, we take backup of that distribution database as well. So we need to look at that database backup before we can perform any kind of restores, right? Now, the sixth prerequisite is ensure you have appropriate permissions to rebuild the system databases. So that is also an important point. Ensure you have appropriate permissions to rebuild the system databases. All right. So to perform this operation, basically you need to be a member of the sysadmin fix server role. So you should be a system administrator if you want to rebuild the system databases. And the last prerequisite step is we need to verify that copies of master, model, MSDB, data, and log template files exist on the local server. So here we are talking about the template files through which we will create the new files. So basically we need to verify copies of master model and MSDB data and log template files exist on the local server itself. And if we talk about the default location of the template files, they are available at the following locations. So default location for the template files is, let me write that for you. So it's program files, Microsoft SQL Server, right? And then you need to specify your instance. I'm putting XX for that. And the MS SQL Server folder. And under that MS SQL folder, under that bin, and under that templates directory contains the template copies of these databases. So let me check that out for my version. So let's go to C drive quickly. So for my case, C drive program files, the next location is Microsoft SQL Server, right? And we are using this version, MS SQL 16, MS SQL Server, MS SQL folder, inside that bin directory, and inside that we have templates folder. So these are the templates for all the databases, including master, model, MSDB. All right. So these are the template databases and the log files as well. All right. Okay. So we have ensured that these files are there, right? So these are the templates through which we can rebuild the system databases. Now let's move into the actual process. So let me discuss these steps one by one. So first step is to record the all server-wide configuration values and how this can be done. So let me show you that how this can be done. Okay guys, let's talk about how you can record all the server-wide configuration values, how to record that. So let me go inside SQL Server quickly, and you need to save out all the server-wide configurations. Maybe take backup of this table somewhere. So how to check the server-wide configuration? So there's a table involved with that. So if you trigger a new query against this server, so in order to check the server-wide configuration, what you will do, you need to record all these values. So in order to check these values, you can do select star from sys.configurations. All right. And if you execute this, so this will show you all the server-wide configuration. So having a configuration ID and the name of that configuration and what is the value it is set to. So this is the complete server-wide configuration. So take a backup of this table somewhere. All right, maybe in some other database or something. As this is coming out of the master database and you will be rebuilding the master database, so save this data out somewhere in some other database maybe. So let me show you an example where I will save this in SampleDB, which is a user database. Let's save this data maybe into so first of all, select the database in which you want to save the server-wide configuration. So I'm saving it into the SampleDB, and let me mark it as server-wide configuration. So this will create a table server-wide configuration inside the SampleDB, and this data will be coming from sys.configurations catalog view. And let's execute it. So 95 rows are exported, and now we will have a table inside that. So table inside that SampleDB database, and this is the server-wide configuration. You can check that table as well. So 95 rows should be there. So guys, we have saved the server-wide configuration. So this is what you have to do, right? So take a note of this. You can take backup of the server-wide configuration like this. So let me paste it. All right. So this is an important string. Mark it. Okay. So this is how you record all the server-wide configuration values. All right. So here I'm creating a table server-wide configuration into some other database. So let me mark that into some other user database, I would say, right? All right. So user database are different from system databases. So save these values inside any of the tables inside the user database. I've shown you an example. Now, second step is to record all the hotfixes applied to the instance of the SQL Server and the current collation of the system. And we must reapply these hotfixes after rebuilding the system database. So how to check for any hotfixes applied on the system? So you need to run some couple of commands here. So let me rub this off. So in order to check the hotfixes installed into your system, you need to select various server properties. So there's a server property function. Use that. And you can check the product version using the product version key. And so take product version. There's extra space, so we can remove that. So product version we are taking as product version. Let's see, product version. Okay, let's try to execute it. We got that, right? So similarly, we have some other properties. We need to collect at least like 5 properties like this. So let me paste it 5 times. That should be it. And let's change the keywords. So first we need production version or product version, and next we need the product level key. All right. Next thing we require is the resource version. So make a note of these values. Please note down whatever queries I am writing. So next is resource last update time. All right. Next thing is we need the collation of the database or server as we were talking about. So this needs to be separated by commas. So let's put commas in there. Okay. Now it looks okay, right? Now execute the command. You got all the values, right? So you got product version, you got the, so this is, these keywords have to be changed. So this should be product level and this should be resource version, right? And this should be resource last update time. All right. And the last thing is the collation. We can take it as collation. Okay, let's execute it. Now we got the data, right? So resource last update time is null. Product version is 16.0.11.10.1. Product level is the RTM release. Resource version is 16.00.1110, and the collation file is given over here. We can save this information into one of the user databases. Let's save it in SampleDB. That is what is selected. That is one of our user DB. Let me take backup of that. So after the end, what we can do, after select statement, what you can do, you can type the into keyword and give the name to this table. So maybe let me mark it as server hotfixes and collation settings. So this keyword should come after this one. All right. Now this command is good. Let's execute this. So all the settings, which is basically one row of data, is saved into this table inside the SampleDB database, and you can check on that. I've refreshed the tables. Now we have this server-wide configuration as well as server hotfixes and collation settings. We can check out this table to see if our data is saved. Yeah, we have taken a backup of this data base, so we are aware of now whatever hotfixes are installed or what's the product version level or the resource version level, and the collation for your database server. All right, let's close it. We have taken the backup. So note down these commands, guys. Let me copy them out for you. If I'm able to copy those, let me put it there. Okay, let's do a paste special. So these are some of the property settings. Let me mark it with a different font to give it a different look. So I think Courier is the best font to do highlight these. Let's reduce the size on these. Maybe 16 should be. So these are some of the property settings. Let me mark them with the red color. All right, I can make it a little bigger as well. This should be enough. All right. So take a note down of this command. I'm saving the data, which is the hotfixes applied on the system, as well as the server collation into server hotfixes and collation settings. And I have saved it in the. Maybe you can use the whatever database you want to save it to. You can use the command use SampleDB before that, in case you want to be sure that the table is being saved in the SampleDB table. After that, you can execute the command. So similarly, if we talk about this, we can use SampleDB colon. So we are fine here, right? So this is how you should execute the command. Now, next thing to record is next thing we do as a prerequisite is to record the current location of all data and log files for the system. So we should note down these locations. Okay. Location of any data and log files for the system databases. This is just for the system databases. We will store the settings for where the log and data files are stored. So basically, when we rebuild the system databases, it installs the system databases to originally to their original location only, right? And you have to move the system databases later on to their appropriate location. All right. So if you have moved system database or log files earlier to a different location, you must move these files again. All right. Once the restoration is done. So let me write some commands for you. Let's go to SQL Server. How you can do that? Let me rub this off. So instead, what I can do, let me save this all in a file. So system, I'm saving it as system restoration, or maybe system databases restoration prerequisites, right? Let me save it with that. So these are prerequisites. So let me copy out the first command from there, from the file itself. This was the first command I've executed. So let me mark it with step 1. So step 1 will be this. And let me make it as comment. So step 1 is, let me copy that out over there. So this is the first step. All right. And what about second step? Give me a minute, guys. All right. So this is the step one, and this is one is the step two, where I can copy that out. Let me copy it out. So we record all the hotfixes applied to the instance of the SQL and current collation. This is the second step. We can move it in 2 lines, comment them. So this is step second. Now I'm moving towards step three. So step three is to record all the current location of the data and log files for system databases. So this should be our step three. Right, let me make it comment. So how do you record that? So guys, please note down the commands for this. So let's do a select star from initially I take star, right? Later on I refine on the column. So we need to use the sys.masterfiles system catalog view, and we need to put the where clause, and we are taking database ID values in, and we need to specify the name of the databases. So for that I use the dbid function. So basically dbid needs to be supplied to the database ID, and we can get the dbid for a database via the dbid function. So let's take the dbid for master database. Next database we need is we need the dbid for model, right? So take model database. Let's take another dbid which is for MSDB. All right, and let's take another dbid which is for TempDB database. Let's close this, close the outer bracket, and yeah, we are done. This is our command. Put a semicolon if you like. So let's do a select star and let's define the column. We don't need all the columns, so we need name from the original table, right? So there's a name column we need, uh, which is coming maybe later. Do we see a name column here? Yeah, this is the name. So this is the name of the database. So let's take name and the physical name, which shows the actual location of the file. So let's take physical file name as the current file location. All right. All right. So this is the command we need to execute. So we just need two things, the name and the physical location of these files. We don't need all the details. All right. So let's save these settings into the sample DB. Right. So maybe you can use this command prior to running each one as a batch. Let's paste it here somewhere. And prior to this batch also, let's put it in. So we need to be sure that these commands are storing files in the. So let's take into clause so that I want to store this data into a backup file. And this is currently I have stored all the files in the files are in their default location. I have not moved it, but yeah, if you moved it, you should save these locations into a backup file. So what is this? Data and log file location. Let me location. Maybe I can say sysdb data and log file location. All right, and let's move it here. So this is the command, right? So let's execute this command now so that the data should get saved in the sysdb data and log file location table inside the sample DB database. So let's execute that. So 15 rows are affected, and now we see a new table gets created over here, which is the system DB data and log file, and we can check. Yeah, so locations are saved. We have backup of the locations. Later on, this data will be useful in relocating the files or moving the files. So we are done with step 3, guys, which is a prerequisite step. Now let's save the file and let's see what the next step is. Okay, so this one is the fourth step, guys. Let me properly mark it. Okay, So this one is the fourth step. Okay. So let's write under that. So guys, now the fourth step is locate the current backup of master model and MSDB databases. All right. So guys, if you have the backups, right? Backups of ideally you should be taking periodic backups of master model and MSDB databases. So in case the corruption occurs, you should have a backup ready. But yeah, we our database are fine. So we can take backups right now, but yeah, ideally you should have a backup strategy where you will be taking backup of this these system databases at appropriate intervals. Please watch out my previous videos regarding that. How should be the how much should be the frequency of each system database? Check out all those videos, please. All right. So let me take the database backup now. So what do we need here is we need the backup of master model and MSDB databases. The fourth one was the TempDB, so for that backup is not required. So let me go ahead and quickly take the database backups. So need to go into system databases, right click on master. Let's take a backup of the master database. It's fine in our system, so we can take database. But yeah, if it's in corrupt state in your system, you shouldn't be taking the backup of that corrupt database. Ideally, you should be having regular backups available to you, right? So yeah, my master database is fine. So yeah, I can take backup from here right away because I have not taken the backup previously. So in order to take backup, you can go to task and take a backup and let's say take a full backup of this database on disk. Yeah, I would like to take on disk and default location is backup and it is being backed up inside master back. So let's back it up now right away. Let's take a backup of master database. So this is done successfully and we can check out whether it is done successfully by going to the location. So I think it should be under the C drive and go to program files and Microsoft SQL Server, your instance, my MS SQL folder. There's a backup folder inside that. So right now I've taken the master backup of master database. So now let's take a backup of model database as well. So go to task, take a backup, model full backup, location is okay. Let's go ahead. So model is also done and we can check it out in the folder. So model is done and third database backup we need is of MSDB database. So do the same steps, take a backup, make sure it's a full backup, stored it in a disk under the backup location. Okay, we are fine. So all three databases are now backed up. We have taken the backups now because earlier we had not taken them. But yeah, ideally you should have a good backup strategy and you should be taking regular backups for these databases. All right. So fourth step is done. Which is you can use the TSQL commands for backups as well. So step 4 is to take backup of or not take backup. We need to locate the current backup of the master model and MSDB databases. All right, so you can use the tsql commands here as well if you prefer. You can watch out my previous videos to see how you can backup using the tsql commands. I'm not writing them here. I have done it through GUI here. So let's move on to step 5. So what is step 5? So step 5, if we talk about is so step 5 is if the instance of the SQL Server is configured as a replication distributor, we need to take the backup of the distribution database as well. So in our system, the SQL Server is not configured as a replication distributor because we do not see any distribution database over here. So there is no need to take the backup of distribution database as it is not available. So let me say take backup of So not take, I would say locate the backup of distribution database. So in your backup strategy, you should have backup strategy to backup the distribution database if replication is configured on your server, and you should try to locate that database backup if it's available to you. All right. And now the sixth step is to, let me write step six. Step six is to ensure that uh, you have, so ensure that you have appropriate permissions to rebuild the system databases. So I'm using the system administrator account, so that's fine for me. All right. And my account is having a system administrator permission, so that's fine for me. And you need that type of account to restore any system databases. And the next step, which is the last prerequisite, is to verify that the copies of master model and MSDB data and log template files exist on the server. Yesterday we checked on this. So these are available in the bin templates folder. So we just need to make sure that those are available. So if we go to our server, there's a bin folder and the templates folder. So here we have templates for master model, and we have it for MSDB as well. So MSDB log is here. So master MDF, master log, right? Model MDF. I don't know what type of files are these. So model MDF is there, model log is there, MSDB data file is there, and MSDB log file is there. So these many files are required. These 6 files are required. So we have these files, right? All right. So we are done with prerequisites. We have all the prerequisites. All right. So the next step is to actually rebuild the system databases. So let me write that down. So this will be our next step. So let me mark it with the heading color. Should be blue. Okay. All right. So now we are talking about a procedure which will rebuild the master model, MSDB, and TempDB system databases. And you can't specify the system databases to be rebuilt for clustered indexes. For clustered instances where your database server is running on a cluster. The procedure must be performed on the active node. If you are using cluster, guys, please make sure that you will be performing this procedure on the active node only and not on the passive mode. So it should be performed on the active node, and the SQL Server resource in the corresponding cluster application group must be. So the passive node should be taken offline before performing the procedure. All right. So I'm again reiterating. Ideally, you should not be doing this in your production environment. I'm not suggesting that in any way, and you should avoid that. I'm just teaching it because you can practice this stuff in your test environment. So if your test environment has cluster configuration for SQL Server where you are using 2 nodes inside the cluster for SQL Server, and if you are rebuilding the system databases, what you need to do on a cluster instance, this procedure must be performed on the active node, and second node, which is a passive node, should be taken offline before performing the procedure, the system restore procedure. And the procedure doesn't build the resource database, so it doesn't work on resource database, so it will only work for master, model, MSDB, and TempDB databases. All right. So for resource databases, and you should have a separate backups of the files, resource database files. You can take it from the folder. We have some previous videos on that. You can check them out, how to take backup of the resource database. Now let's rebuild databases for an instance of a SQL Server. So first step is you need to, let me write that down. So insert the SQL Server installation. Now I'm going ahead with the actual process where, let me close this down. So I'm going ahead with the actual process. Here you are rebuilding the system databases. I'm performing this operation on the default instance. So we are fine, right? So let's do it on this instance. Yeah, because we have taken backup from this instance and the configuration values are from this instance. So you need to insert the SQL Server installation media into the disk drive. So let's try to locate our installation media for SQL Server. So this is SQL Server 2022. Let's see if we have a media available for this. So let's see, C drive. So we have a media available for SQL Server 2019, I think. Yeah, we have the executable files for 19, but this one is 2022. And I need to check where it is downloaded. So if I take a look at ISO library, we have an ISO for which is a disk image file for SQL Server 2022, and this can be used, right? And if I double click on it, I can open it as well. So we have an installation media ready, right? Okay, and basically from the command prompt, change the directory to the location of the setup, right? On the local server. So we should have installation media available first of all, right? And next step is to go to the following location in command prompt. And what this location will be, this location will be C drive. And I'm talking about the default location for the SQL Server 2022. So it should be program files, Microsoft SQL Server, right? And it should be 160. 160 is for SQL Server 2022. You should need to check the location for your specific instance. So there should be a setup bootstrap folder, right? So let me write it down properly. So setup bootstrap folder, and under that we will see SQL Server 2022 folder. Now let's try to go into that location. So let's open up a command prompt. Let's open it with administrative privileges so that we shouldn't be getting any warning messages. So this is open. Let's go to this location. So program files, and we go to Microsoft SQL Server. Okay. And after SQL Server, it's I think 160 for this. Let's see, 160. Yeah, we have. And next is setup. So setup bootstrap is there, and SQL Server 2022 folder is there. So I'm into this folder now, right? So I hope you have done till here, guys. Guys, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please go ahead and do so right away, as these videos are very useful for you guys. I'm teaching practical stuff over here, which you will don't find anywhere on the YouTube. So alright, I am inside the SQL Server 2022 folder. If you have, in order to subscribe, you need to click on the subscribe button below this folder. So please go ahead and do so right away. Alright, so I'm in this particular folder, SQL Server 2022. What would be the next step? So I'm inside this folder, right? On the local server. The second step is from this command prompt window, we need to enter the following command. And basically, we have some parameters indicated in the square brackets. But these are totally optional parameters, and we don't have to enter the brackets, right? And when using a Windows operating system that uses user account control enabled, running setup requires the elevated privileges. So that's why we have opened the command prompt with the in the administrator mode, right? So command prompt should be run as administrator. Now the command that you should be running. So run the following command, guys. And guys, don't do this in production environment under any case. Don't do that. Only do this stuff in test environment or lab environment only. That should not be of your company. That you should be your personal environment. As anything can happen while you are restoring the system databases. So do not perform these steps under any circumstance. Do not perform these steps in your office system or production systems, right? Do this stuff whatever I'm teaching and telling you in your test or lab environments only. This is for practice only, guys. I'm not telling you to go ahead and do this in the production environment. So take that as warning, and I'm not responsible if you do anything in your production environments. All right, so let me be clear on that. All right. So run the following command from the command prompt. So what should be the command? Command is, it should start with setup and it should be done in quiet mode. So let's take quiet, and we need to specify the action after that, which is the rebuild database action. I would specify. All right, so the action is specified. I can specify the instance name, but in our case this is default instance, so that is okay with us. And we can specify the SQL sys admin accounts. But yeah, ideally if I do not specify, right? And if we want to change the SQL collation, we can specify it here right now as we are rebuilding the system databases. We can specify the SQL collation as collation name, new collation name, if we want to change the location only. If we want to change the collation only, so that can be done by rebuilding the system databases. Otherwise, you cannot change the system collation. But yeah, I would not suggest you changing the collation. But yeah, if you want, yeah, you can do a rebuild of system databases to change the collation. Let's try to perform these steps in the environment. This is my lab environment only, guys. I'm not using any production environment, so you should be doing the same. Use only test and lab environments only. All right, now let me run this command. So I'm starting with setup. What I need to do is I'm performing a quiet rebuild of system databases, and the action I'm specifying is rebuild database action. And I don't want to change the collation of my system, and I want to rebuild the database, right? So let's press enter and see what happens. So it is doing something in the background. Let's see what it does. Still executing something in the background. I don't know. I've opted for quiet mode. So all right. So there's some setting which is missing. So we need to specify the instance name, right? That is not specified. So let's specify the instance name. That setting is also required. So after that is not an optional setting. And so that is a required setting. You need to specify the instance name. So can be indicated by instance name, right? And instance name, I would say is equal to the instance name. You need to specify. So let me take my instance. So if I go inside SQL Server, what my instance name is. So ideally, if we connect here like this, I have another instance as well. So I think for default instance, you just specify maybe the local host, maybe, or after machine name, you can specify a dot for a default instance. Let's try. Or you just provide the machine name, right? Maybe. Yeah, let's try that. So instance name, I would just mention the machine name, which will, I think, take the default instance. So if you just specify the machine name, it should take a default instance. Let's run it and see what happens. So waiting for it is doing something in the background, still saying some error. So it's not a valid instance name. So maybe let's try to specify default as the instance name because we are using the default instance of SQL Server. Let's use default to see if that works. So your system name is also not a valid instance name. So again, it is saying, so it is still saying that the instance name is not valid. The default keyword is also not valid for the instance name. So how to specify the default instance, guys? Let me check the SQL Server services to get an idea. So this, what is the instance name over here, right? If you see in the bracket, that is the instance name. So for instance SQL Server 2019, we have this instance name SQL Server to the instance 2019. For this, we have MS SQL Server, which is the default instance. So let's specify that. All right. So let me execute that command. And instead of default, we use MS SQL Server, and that is the default instance. So let's press enter on that. That should be fine now. Let's wait for the command to execute and rebuild the system databases. All right, let's see. So it is still saying something. So it is now saying that the following error occurred: missing system administrator account. So we need to specify the system administrator account as well. So that can be done with uh, this additional parameter. So let's forget about SQL collation name. I'm not changing it here. So instead of SQL collation, I'm specifying the SQL sysadmin accounts, and that setting should be set to the accounts. So let's see. Let's specify that setting after the server name. So it should be SQL sysadmin accounts equal to, let me give my account. Uh, so who I can do separate command window and check who am I. So this is my account which I'm using. So let's mark it over here. We need to use this one and press enter to copy it, and we can paste it here. So guys, paste the account here. Let's see if I'm able to paste it. No, I'm not. So let me write that account down. So desktop, these are weird kind of words. I'm still not able to copy that. Let me try to copy that out again. So do edit, mark, select this data, press enter to copy and paste it in Notepad. Okay, copy it from here and paste it in another window. So for this account, I'm using this. All right. So I hope it should be fine now. Let's execute the command. Now we have given the system administrator account, which is account under my name over here. And it should use the Windows authentication because this is the Windows account. Let's see if it works now. So this will rebuild the system databases. All right. And when setup has completed rebuilding the system databases, it returns to the command prompt with no messages. So in case this command is successful, it will return to the command prompt without any error messages. And we can also examine the summary txt log file to verify that the process completed successfully. And these file will be located in the bootstrap logs folder. So let me go back somehow. So the bootstrap log folders are in the Microsoft SQL Server 160 folder and the setup bootstrap, and inside there's a log folder, right? So go into logs folder. So this is the file that is being created. You see the latest timestamp, which is of right now. So something is being written to this file. It has some 4 KB of data is written. So I think it is completed. The command is completed, right? So this was the command I've written, and it has rebuilt the system databases in the background, right? And we are back to the command prompt. So this is the third step, and if you want to check the summary of this command, this is the summary. So final result is passed. So we have successfully rebuilt the system databases. So exit code 0 is a good indication. So start time of rebuilding the system databases is 6:50 p.m. and end time is 6:52 p.m. This is our machine information, right? And this is some additional information. Let me stop the word wrap. So these are the product feature discovered. So we have 2 instances of SQL Server running on this machine, right? But we have, so we have Express Edition as well, right? So we have SQL Server 2019 Developer Edition and Express Edition, and we have SQL Server 2022 edition and having the featured database engine services and integration services, right? And both are under the Developer Edition, and this is the product name. which we have rebuilt the databases for. So these are the details for that. And okay, so we have done the rebuild database operation. The configuration file is here, uh, which is regarding the parameters we have set. So yeah, these are all other system settings which are restored. These are the configuration values which were restored. And all right. So after you rebuild the system databases, what you need to do? So in this case, we have successfully rebuilt the system databases. So we can close out this report. We have checked it, right? Now, the rebuild scenario, basically, what does it do? Let me write that down for you. So when third step is when setup is done, it will come to the command prompt. At this time, you can check there is a file summary.txt txt log file which you can check for the rebuild process, right? And this file, let me give you the location where it is stored. So let me copy this. It's stored over here in the not in the SQL Server 2022 folder, but in the logs folder. You can check this area out. And the fourth point is, what does the rebuild process does is the rebuild database process deletes the system databases in the background and installs them again in a clean state. So all our settings and user-defined objects that we were discussing earlier will be removed from the system databases once we rebuild. I do not have any user-defined objects in the system databases, so I am fine over here. But yeah, ideally you should be restoring any previous backups that you have taken on top of this rebuild databases. You should do a backup restore. Let me reiterate that. So the rebuild database process deletes system databases in the background and install them again in a clean state, which is deprived of any user objects or your settings and all, right? We had discussed about this earlier as well, right? So if you go to the top, you can check out this area. What happens? So this is the section you should be focusing on. So databases are dropped and recreated in their original location. And when system databases are rebuilt, any user modification to these databases are lost. So we have lost all this information. Any user modifications we have lost. And for example, if we have any user-defined objects in that database, master database, we will lose that. If any scheduled jobs are there in MSDB, we will lose that. If any changes to our default database settings in the model database, we will lose those changes as well, right? So we have just rebuilt the system database and we are in a clean state, right? All right, guys, so let's see what has to be done next. Now, because the settings of the TempDB file count doesn't persist, the value of the number of TempDB file is unknown during the setup, right? Therefore, the rebuild database scenario doesn't know the count of the TempDB files to be added. So it's just add the one file, right? You can provide the value of the number of TempDB files again with the SQL TempDB file count parameter while doing a rebuild, right? If this parameter was not provided to you during the rebuild databases will add a default number of TempDB files. So whenever you let me come back, guys. So guys, here we have not specified this switch for TempDB. Otherwise, you can specify this switch SQL temp GB file count in the above statement here while rebuilding the databases to specify the exact number of TempDB files you want. So take a note of this switch as well. If you don't specify this parameter, the rebuild database will add a default number of TempDB files, which is as many TempDB files as the CPU count or 8, whichever is lower. All right, so we have 8 logical CPUs, so it should have created 8 files, 8 MSDB files. All right, now what are the post rebuild tasks? So we have rebuilt the system databases. Now they are in the clean state, right? So what should be our post rebuild tasks, right? So let's talk on that. Let's talk on the post rebuild tasks. All right, so post rebuild task, if we talk about, so after rebuilding the databases, you may need to perform the following additional task. So the first step is to, let me take it down a little further. So post rebuild task is, okay, let's talk on post rebuild task. So we should restore your most recent full backups of the master model and MSDB databases. So after you rebuild the system databases, perform a restore of master model and MSDB databases. So let's go ahead and do so. Let's restore master model and then MSDB. Do this in sequence. First restore master, then restore model, and then restore the MSDB databases. Now let's go inside SQL Server. Let me do cancel. Let me reconnect to the instance once again. This is the default instance. So let me restore. Okay, guys, our you see we lose our user databases here as well. We don't have information on that. So this is the step you should be careful about. The information is not coming. Let's try to restore master database to see if we get that information. So let's do a restore of the database, master database. We have just taken the backup. So let's restore it from a device. So device is a file. Let's add. So we have taken the master backup of master earlier. So let's use that backup. Let's do a restore quickly. So restore of master database is failed. Why? Okay. So I think master database cannot be restored like this. So we have a video for that. You can watch that video out. But let me see how I can restore it here. So it cannot be restored from within the GUI. It's not allowing us to restore. It has failed with the message, right? So first of all, our server must be running in a single user mode, it is saying, right? So let's try to take our server in single user mode. Let's do that. Right click on the server and let's see if we have the option to take it in single user mode. Now, I don't know if I can take the database into single user mode right here in the properties, maybe. So we cannot take the database, master database into a single user mode, right? Do we have written some multi-user written over here? So this is in the multi-user mode. Let me try to take it into the single user mode and see if the restore works. Yeah, I want to close all the connections. So this single user option cannot be set on the master database. You got the message. So we need to do the system restore via different process. So let me see how you can perform a restore of system databases. I had a video on that, so you can check out on that. Let me see how I can restore, guys. Give me a few minutes. So guys, you should watch out the video I've created on restore of master database in order to know how to restore the master database. I'm performing those steps right away. So guys, in order to restore the master database, first thing we need to do is to stop the SQL Server service of the default instance. So let me stop that here. And let me close that. Let me disconnect it from here as well. And after that, what we can do is we can stop the service here. This is the default instance service. So let's stop it. And it will also stop the SQL Server agent service, which is the associated service. Let's stop that. All right, so this is stopped. Now, what should be the next step? Let me discuss that now. So, guys, the next step is to open the command prompt with the administrative privileges. So, it is already opened over here, but yeah, this one is not with the administrative privileges. So, I'm opening a new command prompt by running it as administrator. Let's do yes. So, this is the command with the command prompt with the administrator mode. Now, let's see what to be done next. So guys, after you open the command prompt in the administrator mode, you need to go to the bin directory for your existing instance. So that should be into the program files, Microsoft SQL Server. Okay. Under Microsoft SQL Server, we have MS SQL 16, MS SQL Server folder. Under that, we have MS SQL folder. Under that, we have bin folder. Go inside that. All right, after that, you take a look at the executable files. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to connect to the SQL Server in the single user mode. Our service is stopped here. So what we are doing right away is we are connecting to SQL Server in a single user mode using the SQL Server command, SQL Server.exe command over here. We will try to connect to the SQL Server using the SQL Server mode. So run the following command, which is SQL Server. Let me write that command properly. So it's SQL server.exe. After that, you need to specify some switches, C, F, and S. All right. Now, after you specify these switches, just specify MS SQL server, which is the name of the default instance over here, right? And after that, you need to specify the switch msql command, which is this. Now let's press enter to connect to it in a single user mode. So right now it's trying to connect in a single user mode, and I think it is connected. So SQL Server started. So it started the database, certain databases. It is started now. So it is listening and started and all. All right. So minimize this window. We are connected to the SQL Server in a single user mode right now, right? So we are connected. So that's a good indication that we are connected to the database. Now let's see what has to be done next. Now guys, once you are connected to the SQL Server instance, I would suggest you to minimize this window and open up a new command window. Don't open it as administrator, but yeah, let's open a usual command window and let's see what commands do we have to type here. So guys, let's close this window. I think we need a window with the administrative privileges in order to perform the restore operation. So right click and run as administrator. So guys, we are already connected to the SQL Server in single user mode in this window, and we have opened a new window with that administrative credentials, right? We have opened command prompt as an administrator, right? Now let's see how to restore the master database. All right, guys, let's try to connect to the that SQL Server instance which is opened up in the single user mode. So if we check this, not this window, I think this is the one where we are connected to the SQL Server in single user mode. So it's in single user mode right now, guys. All right, so yeah, if you take a look at this line, SQL Server started in a single user mode. Now let's go back to the command prompt window and we will use the SQL command, which is the command line version of SQL tool. And we can use the S option. We can specify the server to connect to. Here we are specifying the local machine, the default instance. So I'm just use the machine name. Otherwise, you can give the name of the machine as well. And my machine has weird name, so I don't want to give the name. But instead, what I've used the IP address. And let's specify the name of the database with the d minus d parameter. So let's connect to the master database. Let's see if I am able to connect to it or not. All right, we got some errors while connecting to it. Let me look into that. Guys, somehow it is not able to establish connection with the SQL Server. Let me try to connect to the SQL Server again. Let me see. Let me close this all together, the SQL Server Management Studio. And let's ensure that services is in stopped state. So these are in stopped state right now. All right. So, all right, let's see. So here I'm connected to the SQL Server instances in a single user mode. So it is giving me some error regarding the service principal name. So Kerberos authentication is failing over here, right? So let's see whether I can sort out this option. So guys, finally I'm able to restore the database, the master database. So what I've done is I've closed both the windows, then I've started and stopped the SQL Server service. Now, right now it is stopped. If you even refresh it, it's stopped. So I've opened this window again, and what I have done is I've ran this command, which you can note down. And the command was this, SQL Server exe minus c minus f minus s, the name of the instance, and msql command. After which I'm connected to this. Let me show you that message we got. So we are connected to SQL Server in a single user mode, and SQL Server is ready to accept the connection. Though we got this error message once again, or warning once again. But yeah, we are connected. All right. So right now we see SQL Server shutdown has been initiated. So I think that is because of this process which has terminated down this process. So earlier it was connected to the system, so we don't got this prompt. So we were connected, we were up till this point, right? After that, I've opened another window in the administrator mode and run this command, SQL command minus s localhost minus e minus t and master to connect it to the database. After that, on the first prompt, I've typed restore database master from disk and I've specified the path for the backup. All right, file. And after that, on second prompt, I pressed go. Initially, I got this error. So I need to use the replace option. If I get, in case you get this error, the backup set holds a backup of a database other than existing master database. So what you need to do, you need to use the with replace option. So I've done this, after which I was successfully able to override the master database with the backup I have. Now let's see if we can restore other databases in a similar way. But yeah, if you are able to restore master database, that should be fine. So that is the only database I think which is difficult to restore. So after your master database is successfully restored, the process automatically terminates the SQL Server process you see here. That's why we got to this prompt. So right now the master database is restored. So let's try to start the SQL service, SQL Server service and go inside the SQL Server to see what do we see. Do we get our databases back or not? So let's connect to the server. So backup we were not able, the master database backup we were not able to restore, right? Right now you see other databases have also come back. Once I restored the master database from the backup, I got all my databases back, right? So the rest of the things is if you want to restore the model database, you can do so from here. So for model, let's go to restore process and restore the database. I think we can restore it from here. Model we should be able to do so. But yeah, but for master database backup restore, you need to go through the command prompt in a single user mode in order to restore it. So let me restore model. I think it should be able to restore the backup. Let's try to restore it. So again, restore of model database failed. So or rather, let's try to restore it from here. Let's see if we can restore the model database from here. Task, not backup, but yeah, we need to do restore task restore and the database and yeah, we want to restore it from a device and look at the device and this is the model database backup file we had taken earlier. So let's click OK. So let's see. So it is giving me some warning message that a tail log backup of the source database will be taken. So it will take a tail log backup. Let's see. if it does that. And you can use the with replace option as well. So if you use this option, the tail log backup is not required. Let's see if we are able to do it with the tail log option, if it allows us to. So it failed, right? So what is the message we got? Cannot backup the log of the. So we don't want to take log of the. We don't want to use this tail log backup. Instead, what we can do, we can use this override the existing database with replace. Check this option. We want to replace the database with whatever is there in the backup. So let's do that. You need to uncheck this option. Take the tail log backup before restore. We don't want to do that, and we want to use the with replace option so that it should get completely replaced with the whatever file is there in the backup. So let's click OK. We are able to restore the model database successfully. All right. Similarly, we can restore the MSDB database as well. Again, guys, just right click on it and go to task and do a restore of database and select device and locate the file for so this is one is MSDB, right? Let's click OK. Under the options section, tail log backup is not available for this. Just select the override existing database with replace option. This is required. So let's do that and restore the MSDB database as well. Right, so it's restoring the file. Let's see how long it takes to restore. Don't know why it's taking so long. Is the database file very big? Yeah, it's little big, like 18 MB compared to other files, which are smaller. So it is failed, right? So let's see what their message is. So it is saying exclusive access could not be obtained because the database is in use. So there's an option where we can drop in the connections. So check this option, close existing connection to a destination database and use the with replace option. So what it will do, this option will close any existing connection to the database. Let's do that. This time it should be able to do. So database MSDB restored successfully. Let's click OK. Now guys, I hope you got it. We have restored the master database, after which we got our user databases as well. So I would suggest not storing the information in the user databases because earlier we stored the information in the user databases, the server information, the server wide configuration and other configuration, right? But yeah, you should be storing it somewhere outside, right? Not in the system, the user defined databases, because once you restore the master database, a new copy of master database get restored and you will lose out on all these databases, and you need to restore the master database from backup once again in order to get all this data back. So guys, I hope you got the idea how you can restore the master database. Otherwise, I have a separate video on restoring the master database as well. So you can check that out if you would like. And let's go back to the topic. So we were looking at the post rebuild task. So we are done with restoring our most recent full backups of master model and MSDB databases. So you can see that, right? Now let's see what has to be done next. So we have restored the most recent full backups of master model and MSDB databases. And we have not changed the server collation while rebuilding the databases. So we had not used the server collation switch, right? We have not used the server collation change switch. The switch, let me talk about that switch exactly. So yeah, that switch is the SQL collation equal to collation name. We have not changed the server collation, but yeah, in case you have changed the server collation, do not restore the system databases. All right, so this is, I'm talking in general. So if you have changed the server collation, do not restore the system databases. Doing so will replace the new collation with the previous collation setting. All right, so whenever you restore the new databases, it will replace the existing collation of your server, right? Now, if in our cases backup files were available, right, when we restored, right, we have done with this task, and we have the backup files available. Ideally, you should have, if you have a good backup strategy, you should have a periodic backups of MSDB model and master databases. But in case, let me talk about a scenario where the backup is not available, or if the restored backup is not current backup. So if you do not have any recent backups, but instead old backups available, what we need to do, we need to recreate any missing entries. For example, we need to recreate all missing entries for your user databases, backup devices, SQL Server logins, endpoints, and so on, etc. And the best way to recreate entries is to run the original scripts that created them. But yeah, that would be a hectic operation. So the recommendation is that you secure your scripts initially. When you created all the items, you should be securing your script, but usually users don't do so. All right, so yeah, in our case, we have, it's best to have database backup, so let's ignore that point. Now, if the instance of the SQL Server is configured as a replication distributor, in our case, it was not a replication distributor, right? So we should also restore the distribution database. So it is not applicable in this case because my SQL Server is not a replication distributor. Now, my SQL Server files were present in the default location. I had not changed the location, so I do not need to move out these files. So if earlier your system or system databases files were moved to some other location, then you need to move the files to the same location now, because ideally when you do a restore or rebuild the system databases, files get created on the default location and you need to manually move those files to the custom locations that you were using earlier. All right, so that is done, and we need to verify that the server configuration values match the values you recorded previously. All right, so we can match the, ideally they should be matching because I have taken the backup of master database and restored it, so they should be matching, right? And there's no need to do matching right here. Okay, so we are done with the this particular step, which is basically sorry guys, so which is basically a post rebuild task where we have restored the all the three system databases. Now let's talk about rebuilding the resource database. All right, so ideally you should have a copy of the file. So restored database is stored somewhere here in the, I think, bin directory it is stored. So this is the resource database files. These two files are there. You should keep it backup of it somewhere else. But yeah, there is a procedure that rebuilds the restore system database. And when you rebuild the resource database, so I'm talking about, let me type that for you. Let's cross that. Let me close that as well. So right now I'm talking about rebuilding the resource database. Let's make it a heading. All right. So, okay. So there are some steps in rebuilding the resource database. What we need to do, we need to launch the SQL Server setup from the distribution media. So earlier we had located the media, which is this one. It's tied to a drive now. So I had an ISO file which is now mapped to E drive. So we need to run the setup if we want to restore the resource database. All right. So earlier I showed you the location of the files, right? Which were present over here, right? These two are the files available in the bin folder. So these files contain, the resource database contains all the objects of the SQL Server. And let's go to the setup screen, expand on it. So we have opened the setup screen from the distribution media, and in the left navigation pane, we can see the maintenance option over here. This is, I'm talking about rebuilding the resource database, guys, so please pay attention over here. So in the left navigation area, I've clicked on the maintenance option, and we need to click on repair after that. All right. So once you click on repair, it opens up the SQL Server 2000 22 installation screen, right? And setup support rule and file routines run to ensure that your system has prerequisites. So after you open it, it runs kind of checks to see if you have prerequisites installed and that a computer passes setup validation, right? Select OK or install to continue. So it has taken me to this screen. Here we have MS SQL Server, right? And let's click on next button. What we are doing is doing a repair operation of SQL Server. That is basically the way to restore the or rebuild the resource database when we do a repair. So on the select instance page, we have selected the instance like you have seen in the previous window, right? So the test have passed, right? Let's go to previous screen. So this was the screen I was talking about. It takes you to a screen where you need to select the instance, whichever instance you want to repair. So I want to repair the SQL Server instance, MS SQL Server, and let's click on next. And the repair rules will run after that to validate the operation. And to continue, we need to click on the next on that screen. So let it take it you to the next screen. So all right, we are finally on the repair screen. So from the ready to repair page, so this is ready to repair page. All right, action is repair, right? And this will perform any kind of repairs on your system. So here we need to select repair, and you will get to a complete page once you click on the repair button, which basically indicates that your operation is finished. So once repair is done, be sure that your files will get replaced with the new files. So your system resource files will get replaced if they become corrupt in under any circumstance. Now let's talk about creating a new MSDB database altogether. Let it complete. Let's let the repair operation to complete to rebuild the resource database. So whenever you perform repair, it will rebuild your resource database. So I'm waiting for it to complete, after which I will continue. Let me pause this video until it completes. So basically what the repair operation will do, it will basically replace the binary files, I think, in the background. So that file, the resource database file, are also binary files. Those will also get replaced, right? Right now, if I see here, right, let's go to those files. So these files are from 2020. You will not see an update here, but yeah, this will get replaced from the original files inside the DVD SQL Server setup exe image. So yeah, setup is still going on. Let me pause the video. So guys, another word of caution is that when you rebuild the resource system database like this by running a repair process from the SQL Server DVD, when you rebuild the resource database, all hotfixes are lost, whatever hotfixes you have installed on SQL Server, because this operation is restoring the original binaries. So it will restore the original files, and any changes done via hotfixes installed on SQL Server have to be installed once again once you perform the repair operation. In our case, we had not installed any hotfixes on top of SQL Server, so we are okay with that. But yeah, in case in your environment, if you have hotfixes installed on top of SQL Server, and if you are doing a repair operation to rebuild the corrupt resource database, what you need to do after the repair operation, you need to reapply all the hotfixes on the SQL Server. Let's wait. It's still not, the operation is still not completed. So let me pause the video. So guys, setup repair process is done, and let's click on the close button now. Okay, and we are back on the SQL Server installation screen. We can close that. So repair operation is done. This can be used, this repair operation can be used whenever you want to repair the resource databases in SQL Server. Now, another item is sometimes your MSDB database gets damaged. And what does the MSDB holds? If you look towards the top of this video, MSDB contains information about scheduled jobs. So sometimes there can be situations where your MSDB database gets corrupt. Okay. So what if you have to rebuild that MSDB database, just the MSDB database I'm talking about here? So we need to, sometimes there is a need to create a new MSDB database, right? So this is another heading. Let me mark it with the heading. So let's talk about creating a new MSDB database. Okay, so let's concentrate on this topic, creating a new MSDB database. So go back to the SQL Server. So if the MSDB database is damaged, or let me write that down for you. So if your MSDB database gets damaged or come into maybe suspect mode, and in case you do not and you don't have the backup of the, so we are taking a hypothetical situation where your MSDB database gets damaged or come into a suspect mode and you don't have the backup of the MSDB database with you. The only option left with you at this time is you can create a new MSDB database, but you will lose out on all the job information and all. All right, give me a second, guys. All right, guys. So yeah, we were talking about situation where your MSDB database gets damaged or come into the suspect mode and you don't have a backup media of the MSDB database. What you can do, you can create a new MSDB database by using there's a script inst MSDB script. All right, we can run this script to install the MSDB database, right? And yeah, this can be only done in the situations where we don't have the backup of the MSDB database and our MSDB database gets corrupt or come into the suspect mode. Okay. So, but if you create a new MSDB database, you will lose out on any of the scheduled jobs that were saved in the MSDB database earlier, right? But there are no options available at this point. So this is what has to be done. So yeah, that's what so there's a word of warning. Rebuilding the MSDB database using the script inst.msdb.sql script will eliminate or remove all the information stored in the MSDB, such as jobs, alerts, operators, maintenance plans, and backup history. Backup history is also stored inside the. So let me talk about this warning. So if we rebuild the MSDB database, so guys, we have a backup of MSDB database as well. So let me try to rebuild it, and then what we will do, we will restore it from the database backup. All right. So rebuilding the MSDB database using the, let me mark it as red. So this is the warning. So rebuilding the MSDB database, which will create a new MSDB database basically. So rebuilding the MSDB database using inst MSDB SQL script, right? Script will remove all the information stored in the MSDB, and that information such as any job information, we will lose out on jobs. Any alerts that were created, we will lose out on that, and any operators that were created, we will lose out on that. Any maintenance plan we have created, those also get stored in MSDB databases, so those will also get removed. Any backup history which you have taken for any of the databases, that history will get removed as well. And any policy based management setting, we will talk about it later, but yeah, any policy based management settings will get removed, right? Your database mail settings will get removed, database mail or email, whatever. So database mail settings will get removed, and I think, and so on, we can say. Any other settings will also get removed. So let me show you the procedure. So let's try to do a rebuild of this MSDB database. So let's assume that this database got corrupt and we don't have a backup of the MSDB database. So in that case, we need to build it from scratch, right? So I'm taking you through that procedure. So once we recreate the MSDB database, I have a backup copy of this master database, so I can restore it absolutely fine after that. So that's not a problem. So let me try to rebuild the database and show you the step how you can rebuild in the situations where you don't have the backup, right? So the only way available for you to restore the MSDB database is to create a new MSDB database altogether. So what we need to do, so step one is to first disconnect from the SQL Server, right? And next step is to stop all services connected to the database engine. So let's stop the MS SQL services. Now we need to stop SQL Server agent. So that one is already stopped. So we need to stop SQL Server agent, SSRS, SSIS services that are connecting to the default instance of SQL Server. All right. And we need to stop all the applications that are using SQL Service as data store. So let me stop the integration services for time being, right? Let's stop this as well, because I'm not sure which one is tied to which one. I think the integration services is using the default database. So let me stop those services as well. So, all right. And let's stop the VSS writer as well, although it is not mentioned, but I think we can ignore it. So the common ones are SSRS, SSIS, SQL Server Agent, and your main service. And we need to start, after that, we need to open up a command prompt and go into the administrator mode in the command prompt. Let's click on yes. So we need to start the SQL Server service. Maybe let's start it on a specific port. So let's do a net start and specify the name of the instance, which is on a SQL Server. And let's do a T3608. All right. Which is T basically here is referring to the trace flag 3608. You can find more about this trace flag online. Check it out on Google. But yeah, let me now start the SQL Server, MS SQL Server default instance with a trace flag of 3608. Let's press enter. All right. So the SQL Server service is starting and it is started successfully. Let's see here if it's showing as started. So it has started with the trace flag, right? That's why we have stopped it because we have to start it with the trace flag over here from the command prompt window. Now let's open up another command line window, not this one. So let's open up a new command prompt window, run it as administrator. Okay. So this window is open, right? In this command prompt window, what we will do, we will detach the MSDB database by executing the following command. So here we are performing the detach operation of MSDB database. And let's write that command. You may write that along with me. So use the SQL command, give the switch, give the switch for server. So for server name, give the instance of the MS SQL Server, which is the default instance. And what we have to detach here. So use the dmaster option over here and give -q parameter over here. And we need to pass in the parameter, which is the execution of a stored procedure, which is sp underscore. There's a specific stored procedure to detach the database. So execute sp detach database stored procedure and as an argument give MSDB. So it will run this query. So first of all, what this will do, this will connect to MS SQL Server and it will run the query, execute, run the stored procedure, execute sp detach db MSDB. So what it will do, it will detach the MSDB database. So let's press enter on that. Let's see if it detaches or gives some messages. All right, it is giving me out error here. Not sure if the command is correct. So it is saying some login timeout expired. Um, some network related issue occurred. Let me try to execute the script again. And it is also saying, please be sure that your instance name is correct and your SQL Server is allowed to configure the remote connections. Let's see if my SQL Server is configured to allow the remote connections. Let me check the properties on connections. Let's see. So do we see? So it allows the remote connection to the server. So this setting is turned on. So we are fine over here. The server allows the remote connections. And let me go ahead and disconnect it from here and close the window altogether. Let's try to execute the command again to see if it works. So it is still not working. So it is not allowing us to detach the database. Some issue with opening the connection to the SQL Server. It is not allowing us to do so. Okay, let's stop the SQL Server service. Let's stop it again. Now, let's try to again start it with the trace flag quickly. So service is starting with the trace flag, and trace flag is also correct. It is T360, which is correct. Let's go to another command prompt window. Let's try to run the same command. Let me confirm if the command is correct. SQL command -e -s, the name of the instance, dmaster -q, and we execute the query. So it should be alongside, I think. I don't know. So let's try to remove this dmaster option. I don't know what it does. Let's try to remove this switch. Let me troubleshoot on this and get back to you guys. So guys, there was little bit discrepancy in the command I see. So this is the -d switch and you need to give a space. So we need to be in the master database. We need to be in the master database. So before we can detach the MSDB database. So this is the correct command, SQL command -e -s, then your instance name, which is default instance. -d is to connect to the database. I'm connecting to master one and I'm executing a query. Give a space between that as well. So -q is the switch for query, and you need to specify the stored procedure, execute sp detach db, and we are detaching msdb. So if you execute this command, it should execute fine now. All right. So let's press enter. It should detach the db now. Okay, still giving me some kind of errors in there. Don't know what is the issue, but yeah, let me try once again. So let's connect to master first instead of executing the query. Let's see if we are able to connect to master here. If we see the service is started, I think let's refresh on that. So it's running, right? And what we are doing is we are trying to connect to master, but it is not allowing us to do so. So, okay, let me take a look into that again. Give me a few minutes, guys. So guys, there is some correction required in the command. So this is the correct command if you want to note it down. So we need to use localhost instead of the instance name of SQL Server. We need to provide the machine name over here. So we have provided localhost to point to the default instance or the default machine, whatever. So server name should come here basically. So instead of server name, we have given the localhost. So the database is now detached, the MSDB database, because of this script. Now the next step is to go to the Windows Explorer, right? And we can rename the MSDB data files. So let's go to the MySQL folder, and there's a data folder, right? Data subfolder. Let's take access. and we have database files. So let us rename the MSDB database files. So to have a backup, to be secure, we are renaming it, right? Because new files will get created. So where is, let's sort by name. MSDB is the name of the files. I don't see them here. Don't know why. MSDB log is this. MSDB data is this. So these two files we are in question here. So what we have to do is we need to rename the MSDB database files just to keep a backup of them. As they are detached, we should be able to rename them. So let's mark it as old. So this one is marked as old. Let's mark the log file as well as old. Although it is not saying to us to mark the log file as old. So let's mark it as old then. Okay. I've marked both the data and log file as old with the attached underscore old. So these files should not get overwritten by something. I have a backup copy, right? Now we need to go to the SQL Server Configuration Manager and restart the database engine services normally with no additional trace flags. So right now we had restarted the SQL Server with the trace flag 3608, right? But now we have to simply go to services console and do a restart of this service. So this will restart the service without a trace flag. All right. So let's do that. So this can also be done from the SQL Server Configurations Manager. So that's okay. Let's do it from here. Now service started without the trace flag now. All right. Now in the command prompt window, we need to connect to SQL Server and execute the following command. So let's go back to the area. So now we need to execute a command. All right. Let's use the same command but with different parameters. So up till here we are fine, right? Up till localhost we are fine. And next switch we need to specify is the -i switch, which will point to the script, and we need to specify the out parameter as well. So let me show you how you can do that. So use the -i switch, then give the path to the folder. So let me show you the folder for which you have to give the path. So you need to go into this location, right? And under that MS SQL folder. Under that we have an install folder where we have this script. So the script name is this one, andTempDB.sql. That will basically recreate the SQL Server MSDB database file. So let's paste that in the window. Let's paste it here. Specify the name of the file, which is instmsdb.sql. After that, you need to provide the output parameter with -o and type the output path as the same path which we have copied, but give the name of the output file as instmsdb.out. All right, so this is done, and let's see if we have a file with that name. So we don't have any file names with the out extension as of now, so we can search by that. So we don't have any files. So this command will cause an output file to be created, right? So we have provided this server name with the instance of the database engine, and we have given the file system path of the instance of SQL Server. All right. And regarding this instmsdb out file, we can read it in Notepad later on to check any output for any errors that we may encounter. So otherwise, what we are doing is we are just running a script with the -i option. Script is instmsdb.sql. All right, and so after we recreate a new MSDB database, what we need to do, we need to reapply any cumulative updates on the SQL Server version to get it to a current CU level. All right. and we need to recreate user content stored in the MSDB database, such as job alerts and other items. So let's restore it. We have a database backup. We will restore that database backup on top of it. But this is generally done in the situations where we don't have backup. So, all right. So let's do that, and it will recreate your MSDB database. Let's see if it gives any output to us. Right now the script must be executing. I hope so. Alright, let me pause it and see if it does anything in some time. So alright, script is already done without me pausing. So it should have created new files because we had renamed the files as old. So if you go into data folder, right? So it is sorted by name. So what we'll see here is we have MSDB data MDF and MSDB log LDF. These are the new files created today as seen by the timestamps, right? And these are the old ones I renamed just few minutes back. So we have new files created, right? Okay. And not sure if I can delete these files or don't delete these files. Maybe you can restore the database backup, or otherwise you can use these files. Let me see if I can rename them if they are not attached or something. Let's do a new. I should not be able to rename it. Yeah. So the file is in use by SQL Server, right? So what should we do here? In order to use the old files which have all the stuff in here, what we can do is we can stop the service that may allow us to rename the file. So let's stop the SQL Server service and let's go into this folder and rename the file with new option, right? And we are able to rename it now and rename the log as well, because here what we are doing is we are restoring the old file. So I've renamed the new files with the new keyword, and let's remove the old keyword from the file to restore them as MSDB data, and the MSDB log also rename it, remove the old thing. All right, so both the files are renamed, and what we can do is we can simply start the SQL Server service so that those files can be used now. All right, so this is the way how you can restore the MSDB files, recreate the MSDB files, sorry, create new MSDB files, or to be very precise, in case you don't have a backup. So I hope you got the idea of creating a new MSDB database. We run the script, right? This script we have just shown you a practical on that. So we are done with this. Now let's talk about another rebuilding, which is the rebuilding of TempDB database. Let's talk on that. So rebuild the TempDB database. This is a separate heading. Let me mark it with some heading color. Should be blue. All right. So let's talk on this topic. So if your TempDB database get damaged, right, or suspect, let me write that. So if in case your TempDB database is damaged, all right, or in suspect mode, right, and the database engine. So if your TempDB database is damaged, your database engine will not start, right? Your database engine will fail to start. So what to do in those situations? What we can do? We can rebuild TempDB database under those circumstances without the need to rebuild all the system databases. So in that situation, if just a TempDB is corrupt, we can rebuild it without rebuilding any system databases altogether. Okay. All right. Let's see what are the steps to do so. So in case your SQL Server is not starting, right? we need to rename the TempDB, MDF and LDF log files. So the procedure is simple. What you can do is you have TempDB files over here, this one, TempDB and templog. And we have other files as well, series of 8 files, right? We should rename all of them after stopping SQL Server service. And so right now, if I try to rename them, I should not be able to rename them because they are being used by the database, right? I will not be able to rename them, right? So let's stop the SQL Server service. Stop the SQL Server service. Okay, let's do that. So this is automatically done in the situation when your database engine fails to start. So the service should be in stopped state in those scenarios. So let's rename the files over here. So our TempDB is using 8 files over here. So we need to rename all of them. So let's mark them with old keywords. So we have total of 8 files. All of them should be marked with old keyword, right? Yeah, this one is old. Rename this one. Mark it with old. Do it for other files as well. Mark them with the old keyword. So why we are marking these with old keywords? Because we will have a backup of these files in case the new files get created. So all of the data files are marked. Let me mark the log files as well. So let's mark it with the old keyword. So all of the TempDB files are marked now, right? So our SQL Server service is stopped. What we need to do is we need to start the SQL Server service. So go to the command prompt and you need to execute a particular command. Let me clear out the screen. So run the command SQL server. This is the command, and use the -c switch, -f switch, and use the trace flag as well, which is 3608, and use another trace flag which is 4022, and use s, give the instance name, -s, give the instance name. Let's take it as localhost. But here the instance name is specified, so we should not be using the localhost. Let's use MSQL server over here. So use msql command mode. So let's start SQL server in this command prompt. What this command will do, this will start SQL server in the command prompt with a trace file. Service will not start in the services console, but yeah, here the SQL server is running locally inside the command prompt window with certain trace flags. All right, so let's start. So we need to run this command in an appropriate directory. So let's go to that directory first. So C program files, CD Microsoft SQL Server, CD your instance, this one, MS SQL, and there's a bin folder, right? So you run this command here. You can run this command here. So let's do that. So SQL Server is now started and listening, right? It's ready for client connections. It is connected over here. But if you see the service is not showing connected, right? It is still stopped. But as SQL Server is running in this window. Okay. All right. So this is done. So make sure this command window remains open. You may minimize it. All right. And we need to connect with the SQL Server using the SQL command. So let's see if what we can do here is here we are connected with the trace flags. What about the other window? Let's use SQL command over here. So to connect, so SQL command -e option, -s option. Let's connect to a server. You may use the same query, right, which you have used previously. So -d. Let's be in the master database. Let's use a query, and for query we need to execute a stored procedure, uh, which is in the master database, and procedure name is sp underscore reset status. All right. and we need to give the parameter, which is TempDB. So we are executing this query by connecting to the server, right? And let's execute this to reset the TempDB database. All right. So guys, seems like this command is not doing anything. Let's close the connection. Let's see. We are still connected to a SQL Server. Let's see if we can use the new command prompt window to connect it. Uh, Run as administrator. Okay. Let's use the SQL command -c -s. Give the server name localhost, and let's just try to connect to the database for the time being. We are not able to connect, right? So I think what we need to do is need to start the SQL Server again. Let's Control C to disconnect from it. So yeah, we want to shut down SQL Server. So let's try to connect to it again, and we will again run those commands. So yeah, we are connected to the SQL Server, right? Let me open up the command prompt, and we will just try to connect to the database to see if we are able to. So SQL command -c -s server name, which is localhost. Let's see. We are connected to the server now. What we need to do is we need to execute the stored procedure, which is execute master and sp underscore reset status. Make sure that command is correct. Sp underscore reset status is the correct command. Now pass in the parameter, which is TempDB. Let's execute this command and press go after that to actually execute it. So it is saying that suspect flag on the database TempDB is already reset. So this TempDB is what this command is doing is it is basically setting the suspect flag on the TempDB database. This is what the store procedure is doing, and it is saying that it is already set on this TempDB database. So we are fine over here, right? Flag is already set, and we can now shut down the SQL Server version by pressing Control C over here in the command prompt window. Yeah, we need to shut down the server. So server is shut down. Now we need to restart the SQL Server service over here. So let's start it. So once you start the SQL Server service, it creates a new set of TempDB database files. So let's check. So you see here, new set of database files are created. Okay. So we will not lose out anything with the TempDB. So yeah, we can easily delete the old files. So that's not an issue. So let me delete the old files. Those are not required. So anything with the old I'm deleting, as these files are not being used anymore. Let me delete the old TempDB files. So total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 files, right? Anything else with the old keyword? I don't know. So old. So okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 files are getting deleted. Let's delete them. So yeah, we should be able to start our SQL Server and connect to it. So TempDB database is repaired now, right? So you can use the same procedure which I've shown you a few minutes back to repair the TempDB database in case it is damaged or in suspect mode. Okay, so we are fine here, guys. During this video we have shown you troubleshooting as well, guys, so that is also very much important. So yeah, we are done and we can close out all these window. So this is done. We can use Control C to exit out of here. So close that. Our work is done. This one is also disconnected from the SQL Server, so let's close that and let's close SQL Server altogether. So guys, we are done with this topic. So today what we have discussed is we have discussed about rebuilding the system databases. In this video, we have discussed about rebuilding of system databases, and we have discussed about how the system databases are rebuilt, right? And basically what happens when the system databases are rebuilt, instead of how the better topic would be what happens when system databases are rebuilt. So these are some of the items that happen that when the system database rebuilt and we lose out on certain information, so we should have a backup ready. And we talked about some of the prerequisites for building the system databases, and we discussed about that. So we need to save out various configurations, save out various properties, configuration, and we should save on the current location of data and log files. We should have a current backup of master, or we should locate the current backup of master model and MSDB databases. And if your system is configured as replication distributor, we should be taking backup of distribution database as well. And we need to ensure we have appropriate permissions to rebuild the system databases. And we should verify whether we have templates available for rebuilding the system databases. Then we actually dive into the actual rebuilding process, where we had shown you practically how you can rebuild the system databases. We ran certain commands to rebuild the system databases. Then we talked on the post rebuild task, what you need to do after rebuilding the databases. Basically, the major step is to restore your backups of master model and MSDB databases. And we then talked on just building the resource database that is separate from master model and MSDB databases. And resource database is basically binary files. So how to rebuild that if they get damaged? We have talked about that procedure, shown you practically how to do that. We have also talked about the procedure, practical procedure, shown you as well how to create a new MSDB database. And we also shown you the procedure to rebuild the TempDB database. So there are lots of practicals in this video. So guys, I hope you like this video. If you really like this video, please click on the like button. And today's topic was rebuilding the system databases in SQL Server and how to do that. This is a very much practical video. And I thank you so much for your time on this video today, guys. If you want to write me anything, you can write me on vrmavan@gmail.com. So in case you need the PDF copy of the notes, if you have not written the notes, you can ask for the PDF copies, but those will be paid. INR 25 per page would be the charge. If you need the PDF copies of this video, you can send me the request on my email address, which is mentioned on this page. So upon receiving your request, I will send you the payment link, where upon making payment you can download the notes. So if it's a 4-page notes PDF files, then the cost would be 100 rupees. So it's per page INR 125. All right. So guys, I hope you have already subscribed to my channel. If you are a new user to this channel, or if you are watching my channel from quite some time, and if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, I would highly recommend go ahead and do so. There is a subscribe button below this video. Click on that subscribe button. If it will give you a bell icon, click on that bell icon. Select all notifications to get notifications regarding all my future videos. And I will be posting more videos soon on the database design area. So keep a watch and keep subscribed so that you can get timely notifications. Also, guys, do share your comments with us, any suggestions, requirements, etc., and any stories or your day-to-day occurrences with SQL Server, your experiences with SQL Server, what you encounter in your day-to-day life, any experiences you would like to share, or maybe you want to share about some situation where my content has helped you somewhere in some way. Do share us your stories. We love to read them, and we eagerly wait for the same. And guys, we are done for today, and I thank you so much for your time on this video, and you have a wonderful day ahead. Thanks, guys.